ओम सर्व वेदांत सिद्धांत गोचरम तम गोचरम गोविंदम परमानंदम सद्गुरुं प्रणतोस्म्यहम्. We are trying to study Shankaracharya's Viveka Chudamani, and in the last class we have studied up to Shloka 27. And the context is that he was describing the Adhikara, who is fit to receive the Vedantic knowledge. And he has described the required merits individually, starting from Viveka, Vairagya, Shama, Dama, Uparati, Titiksha, Samadhan, Shraddha, and Mumukshutva. He has described individually, but that has not completed the description of Adhikar. Because now he is telling about the mutual relations between them, how one can help the other, how without one the other is useless. In that way, the interrelation between these merits is the next topic. So we read 28. Manda madhyama rupapi vairagyena shamadina prasadena guru seyam pravruddha suyate phalam. It connects with the shloka 27 in which mumukshuta was described. Now, mumukshuta, all of these things, I have been telling from the beginning that it has gradations. So, suppose the mumukshuta is manda or madhya. Now, in order to understand things, we have to categorize. Actually, there is nothing called manda or madhya because it can be 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, 99%. So, what is manda and what is madhyam? But in order to or reason to understand, we have to categorize. For example, in the university examinations, some are declared to have passed in third class, second class, first class. But there's so much difference. Suppose we decide the boundary at 45%, then one who has got 44% will be third class and 45% will be second class. How? Is this not an injustice? One who has got 59% will be second class, 60% will be first class. So, very important point you should remember here, though appears to be aside, that categorization too much in Vedanta kills the spirit sometimes. And that is the greatest blame we can lay on Sri Shankaracharya. When he talks of karma and jnana also, Ramakrishna has told that it is like the conception in the mother's womb. The more the womb, the child grows, the less is the work. But when you read Shankaracharya, we say karma adhikar up to this, jnana adhikar up to that. It can never be a rigid categorization. Those who have dealt with anything in life, I'll take the example of libraries. If you are, say, 100, 200 books, you can just keep in the almari and they are at your side. But if you have 10,000 books, you must classify them. And if you classify a book philosophy, another book religion, and if there is a book philosophy of religion, where will you keep it? If you classify something as physics, something as chemistry, what will you do with physical chemistry? So, categorization is never complete, impossible in this world. And without categorization, we cannot understand things. So this buddhi understanding itself falls short everywhere. It is a gradual growth, slowly, slowly. And so Thakur's example is the best. That when the child grows in the womb, as the child grows, the works are getting less and less. That is the exact description. But then, because of our brain, we have to categorize. without which we are not able to understand things. And so, you must have heard the word organic, which has become very prevalent these days. What is organic? That which has life. Which does not have life? Everything has life. The manifestation may be less or more. So from a particular point, we call it life. After that, we say jada. So this problem exists. Anyway, having known this, now let us turn to what Shankara has to say. So Manda Madhyama means there is third category called Uttama. And that Uttama, if the moksha is Uttama, it can itself carry you forward. All our effort is to make this mumuksha not only intense but comprehensive, sarvagrasi. Please understand this. If the mumuksha is 10%, nothing else is required. 10% mumuksha, what is required? A little time in which you maintain that mumuksha, automatically moksha is coming. Sri Ramakrishna's example is that this yearning is like the dawn. You know, before the sunrise, 40-45 minutes before the sunrise, there is the redness on the eastern horizon. That is called the dawn. If dawn has come, then sun is coming after 40 minutes. So, 10% moksha automatically will give you Brahmajna. What is required there? This 40-45 minutes is not the count there. So you have to maintain that mumuksha for a period. Nothing else is required. Now what are all these sadhanas? The shamadam and everything. What are they? Even Shravan Manan Nidasan, what are they? To make this mumuksha intense and comprehensive. Comprehensive means no other desire should remain. Intense is intensity. But unless other desires are finished, the moksha does not become 10%. Other desires, let us analyze the other desires now. In mathematics, we resolve all the forces into x-axis, y-axis. Like that, let us resolve all the desires to the original state. And in this respect, the best analysis is by the great Advaiti Swami Adbhutananda Mind. Because he is not a technically read Vedanti, his answers are very straight. There is an incident. One day while talking in the morning, there was a talk of going to some devotee's house in the afternoon, and it had not happened. So in the evening, those people who had talked in the morning, they came again in the evening. And they said, Maharaj, in the morning you had a desire to visit such and such house. He interrupted, don't say like that. I have no desire whatsoever. And then he said the immortal sentence, even you do not have any desire except the desire to realize God. And that desire being fulfilled in me, I have no desire. You also do not have any desire other than realizing God. What you think as your desires today are momentary vibrations of the mind. That is what the great Adbhutanji has told us. Whatever you think as your desires are momentary vibrations of the mind. Take for example now, desire to eat rasgulla. It means what? It means you want some joy. It means you want Brahman, which is the only source of joy. There is no joy in the world. What is the desire? To gain more and more knowledge. All the knowledge is in you. Brahman only is knowledge. Not having that, you want this knowledge, this knowledge, this knowledge. That is what happened to Narada. In the 7th chapter of the Chandogya Upanishad, Narada does not have any hankering for enjoyment like ours. But he was mad after knowledge. And the more knowledge he gained, the more atripta he became, more unsatisfied he became. And so he came to Sanat Kumar. So Sanat Kumar turned that into a different direction. He said, Narada, whatever you know is just a name. Why not think of name as a manifestation of Brahman? And like that, he turned his direction. We want greatness. Why we want greatness? Brahman is the greatest. So all these things represent our desire to get Brahman, which is our own real nature again. So all the desires of ours are nothing but momentary vibrations of the mind. That is what Adbhutanji has told us. One wants fame. Why? Brahman is the famous thing. So every desire of ours, when analyzed, will resolve itself into desire for God realization. And if we are able to resolve this, we will not hanker any desire. We will desire only God. So that is what Adbhutanandaji has told us. He said, I have no desire. And then he said, you also have no desire except the desire to know God. And what you are feeling today as your desire are momentary vibrations of your mind. And that desire which you have for realizing God, having been fulfilled in me, I have no desire at all. This is Latu Maharaja's statement. So we have to resolve. And if we are able to resolve, that is Viveka. Huh? Viveka is not just ordinary Viveka. Viveka means analyze all our desires and find that they get resolved into some characteristic of Brahman. And that is used as Arthavad in most of the Vedantic scriptures. You will become first in the line. Everybody wants to become the first. But this first kills others. But you want to become first because Brahman is the first. And Brahman is the first, not at the cost of anything else. It is the first, and which makes everybody the first. So actually, the desire of a student to stand first in the university examination is nothing. It can be resolved into his desire for Brahman. But at that time, he is feeling that. Swami Vivekananda said, when I was a child, my desire was to prepare a particular type of sweet and eat it. Later on, he said, my desire was to drive a horse. And he said, now I laugh at those desires. Similarly, all our so-called desires are nothing but manifestation of a single desire to know God. And those who know it earlier are wise people. Those who know it late are less wise people. And so, mumuksha has not only to be intensified, but has to be made in Sanskrit, which says sarvagrasi. Sri Krishna's example is that Anurag Vag, he says. Anurag means love of God. Vag means tiger. In a forest, there are several small and big animals, and the tiger devours all. So, when this Anurag devours all our other desires, then only we can get God. And so, this Manda, Madhyama, etc. come. Mumuksha is born, but other desires are not killed. And so, this householder's life, to undergo real householder's life in the Vedantic sense, the ideal has to be God realization. But there are desires. And so we struggle. keeping dharma intact, we struggle. And that gives us evolution. And gradually, the desire to realize God becomes stronger. And that is why the man becomes vanaprasthi or sannyasi. And for them, who is this desire is stronger from the childhood, they become sannyasi immediately. So, this is the analysis of Manda Madhyama Rupapi, that Manda and two things I have told up till now. Manda Madhyama are categories, not absolute count. Secondly, Mumuksha is Manda Madhyama because other desires have not gone. And if the Mumuksha was 10%, would have realized Brahman only by maintaining that Mumuksha for a period of time. And so, no count there, how much time. So, this is the Manda Madhyama Rupa P. So, Mumuksha is there, but it has not yet fully grown. And we categorize it into three parts, three categories, Manda, Madhyama, Uttama. Now, suppose our Moksha is Manda or Madhyama, then Vairagyena Shamadina. Vairagya here includes Viveka. If Vairagya is there and we practice Shamadama, etc., Moksha will grow. So Moksha has been put as the fourth in this Adhikar because it is the result of all these things. Or if it is there but not strong enough, then other things help it. So Vairagya is the main thing. And Shamadama, etc., Vairagya is difficult to create in somebody. Vairagya grows. While when the Vairagya grows, we start practicing Shamadama, etc. And that is why these two are separated. Vairagyena, Shamadina. Shamadina is taken in one group. Shamadama, Uparati, Titiksha, Samadhana, Shraddha is a group. So practicing them deliberately. And Vairagya has grown naturally through Vivek. When these are there, then they help the mumuksha to become stronger. And when the mumuksha intensifies, when the mumuksha, Vairagya will resolve all our desires into mumuksha. That is how Vairagya is required. And unless you practice Shamadama, the desires will always sprout here and there, here and there. So Vairagyena Shamadina, and then Vedanta, please. Vedanta is not only a theory. Prasadena Guruho. Unless the Guru is pleased on you, how the Gurus are pleased? By seeing your moksha, Gurus are pleased. There are some Gurus. If you pay them 1,000 rupees, 1 lakh rupees, they are pleased. They are no Gurus. How a Guru is pleased? Only by, so all these are mutually related things. Out of that mumuksha, he has gone to the Guru, and out of that love for the Guru, he serves him faithfully. Out of the love of that Guru, he becomes obedient to that Guru. And when he becomes obedient to that Guru, not in the sense of servant and master, but knowing that what Guru tells me I have to do, then only I will get my reward. So whatever the Guru tells, he follows. Seeing these things, Guru becomes pleased. And unless the Guru is pleased, life is not going to fructify. We have seen that on the basis of the Mundak Upanishad mantra, Tad Vidyanartham sa Gurumeva Vigacche. There Shankara has pointed out, Shastragropi Swatantrena Brahmanveshanam na Kuryat. So, absolute necessary is Guru's grace. Prasadena Guru. Sa iyam. Sa that, iyam this. That moksha, which is Manda or Madhyama, this, it will grow. Suyate phalam. it will deliver the fruit. Suyate means like a child being born. So this mumuksha, from mumuksha will be born. The result is moksha. So this interrelation is being told with one additional factor. Having described the 4 or 9 spiritual merits which lead us to become fit for realizing God, to that one more has been added. Remember, all these are absolutely necessary, not only the 4 qualities, prasadena guru. So, the muksha is there, manda or madhyam, and vairagya and shamadama we are practicing. Vairagya has grown, shamadama we are practicing, and we get Guru's grace. Then this will lead to the result, required result. वैराग्यम च मुमुक्षुत्वं तीव्रम यस्य तु विद्यते तस्मिन्नेवार्थवन्तः स्युः फलवन्तः शमादया. Another relationship. I told you, the shamadama is something to be practiced. Now there are persons in this world we see who have no vairagya, but out of social compulsion or out of feeling the need for moral development, they practice shamadama, etc. We'll see in society there are people who have good control over their mind, body, etc., etc., for the sake of social merit, for the sake of social betterment, and they don't have vairagya. Then he says 2 things, vairagya and mumuksha. If both of them are strong, then shamadama, etc., have a value, not otherwise. So within all the merits, he is showing us which is more important, which is secondary. So, vairagyam cha mokshitvam tivram yasya tu vidyate. Tu is but. Though I have told, Shankar says all these merits, but shamadama is going to help our moksha. Vairagya is going to help our moksha. But shamadama, without the vairagya and moksha, will not give any result. When vairagya and moksha tivra, tivra moksha, tivra vairagya. So not manda madhyama, tivra. When the moksha and vairagya become tivra, yasyattu vidyate, tasmin eva, in him only, arthavantasyu, become meaningful, phalavanta, meaningful and yielding the result. Result everywhere is moksha only. So, arthavanta, phalavanta, shamadaya. Shamadaya means those 6 things. Shamadama uparati, titiksha samadhana shraddha, are being practiced, but they will become meaningful and fruitful only when vairagya and mumuksha are strong. Then, if they are strong, if that is strong, this will happen. You must tell the other side, if they are not strong, what happens? Etayor mandata yatra viraktattva mumukshyo marau salilavat tatra shamader bhana matrata. This is important. I told you, people practice these things, but they are not real at all. Shamader bhana matrata malau salilavat. That means in a desert we see water. It is an appearance of water, it is not real. So shamadama, etc., will appear to be there in a person. But if vairagya and moksha are manda of a lower degree, then this is only an appearance of shama and dama. This is the interconnection important which is being told. Having described the merits individually, he is telling the interconnection now, which is more important, which helps what? So he is telling that vairagya and mumuksha, if they are only mild, manda can be translated as mild, then shamadehe bhanamatrata. Shamadehe only appearance, like water in a mirage. So these are important things. Now comes the most important thing. And it is so important that aside, other than these four things, he has described it separately. Please remember this. It is not included. It is without that all these things do not happen. But he has separately described it after describing all the adhikar. Moksha karana samagram bhaktireva gariyasi स्वस्वरूपानुसंधानम भक्तिरिति अभिधीयते स्वात्मतत्वानुसंधानम भक्तिरिति अपरे जगुः. Three-line shloka. Now, this I have been telling from the day one. We should not jump upon the meaning of the word. Sarvaswarupanusandhana bhakti. If that was there, he could have said that moksha sadhana samagram swaswarupanusandhanam iti gariyasi. He has told the word bhakti. And there is a principle in understanding Vedanta which is described as Bhaga Lakshana. That means some part of it, if it is not suitable, you have to give up, but don't give up everything to arrive at your Lakshana. So Bhakti itself has a meaning. How can we give up the original meaning of Bhakti and take Sassurvanusandhanam? And the original meaning of Bhakti I have been telling from day one is love and respect. And Shankara has described bhakti in several places, please. And he has said that some examples I am giving. Says the servant is devoted to the master, we say. We say the loving wife meditates on the loving husband. These are the examples he has given. There also can we add Sasurvanusandhanam. In the Gita, Mad Bhaktim Lavate Param. In the 7th chapter of the Gita, Artho Jidnasur Arthati Gyanicha Vartarshava. Is it all bhakti? Comes under Sasurvanusandhanam. That is the further clarification of bhakti. But love for God, attraction for God is absolutely essential, without which all these are bhanamatrata. And that we are seeing in our life. There are so-called Vedantis who do not recognize this. Shankara's greatest point they are missing. And so they are missing the goal of life. So, please remember, the placing of the bhakti here is previously had already brought Mahapurusha Samshraya, Guru Prasad, and now he brings in bhakti. Independently of all these four descriptions, after all these four descriptions, and he says, Moksha Sadhana Samagra. Sadhana means by which you are going to get moksha. Samagri, the spiritual merits, which has been described up till now. But the greatest in them, he says, is bhakti. Moksha sadhana samagram bhaktireva gariyeva. Only bhakti is the greatest in all the material required as means to attain moksha. Now, he has given two definitions of bhakti. And don't think that this is only words and that is only words. He has given two definitions of bhakti. Let us understand them. Swaswarupa Anusandhana. If you take, I do not know what is my real nature, but I know that this is not my real nature. I do not know what is my real nature, but I know definitely that what I feel today This body, Indriyas, mind, I, this is not my real nature. Then what is my real nature? I am searching for that. So this is the transcendental definition of bhakti. I know the world is unreal. I know that my body, mind, etc. are not my reality. I am searching for the reality. How can you search for the reality unless there is a tremendous pulling force? Now the best definition of bhakti is a pulling force. Unless there is a pulling force taking you away from your present life, unless there is a pulling force taking you to, you are searching for your real nature. And let me give some example. All of you, unless you had the pulling force, you would not have come to attend this lecture. Some of you might have come by some intellectual curiosity and they will drop down after some time. Will we sustain? Unless you are an attraction, pulling force, we would not have become sannyasis of the Ramakrishna mission. Unless there was a pulling force, you would not have become devotees. Unless you are a pulling force, you would not have come to attend these lectures. Now this pulling force is taking us away from our present state of life. Towards where? We are searching for that. So, giving up this, searching for that which is beyond, we are searching for that which is beyond. That is called Swaswarupa, my own real nature. Rupa, my form. Swarupa, real nature. Swaswarupa, my own real nature. My own real nature is not what I feel today. My own real nature is beyond, and I have a pull to the beyond. Swami Vivekananda described this in his Jnana. He is telling in two ways. He said the Aryans were not interested in the details, something beyond was pulling them. And while describing Bhagavan Buddha, he said, so many attractions on this side, but he said, for me, these are zero. I want to get that which is beyond. So, this is the Jnani's definition of a bhakti. In the Jnani's mold, he is being pulled by beyond. He does not want this. And the other is Bhakta's way, immanent way. I know there is Atman in me. I know God as my Atman. But what is the real nature? This body is not the real nature of Atman, mind is not the real, but there is an inherent God in me. Atman here means we have seen that God, Ishvara, Brahman, Atman have the same meaning. Atman means Brahman as inherent in me, God as inside me, and that is pulling me. If this is not there, what is bhakti? What are the brightest examples of bhakti? Gopis. Are gopis loving Krishna as an outside person? Listen from them. My Guruji's pet shloka. Bhagavatam, chapter 31st, Gopi Gita, that which is called Gopi Gita. Nakhalu Gopika Nandano Bhavan Akila Dehinam Antaratmadrik Vikhana Sarthito Vishwaguptaye Sakha Udevan Sattvatam Kule. We know well that you are not the son of a gopi. We know well that you are not a human being. You are the innermost witness of all the embodied beings. Deha is there, inside Deha, Dehi lives. But inside that Dehi, there is a permanent witness, permanent consciousness that you are. We are fully aware of this. It is a different matter that Vikhanasa is Brahma. Brahma prayed to you to protect this world, and so, oh dear one, you are born in this particular family. This is what the gopis know. In the Narada Bhakti Sutras which you have studied, Narada has referred to this. Tatrapi na Mahatma Jnana Vismriti Apavada. Don't blame the gopis that they did not know Krishna's real nature. All these are stories that they did not know Krishna's real nature and they loved him. These are stories. Gopis themselves are not saying like that. Gopis in the most viraha condition, most painful condition, the truth comes out from them. Man cannot make up his answers in such a condition. And there they are telling, Nakalu Gopika Nandano Bhavan, Akila Dehinam Antaratmadri, Vikanasa Arthito Vishwaguptaye, to protect the world. Sakha, dear one, Udayivan Satvatam Kule. In this particular family you are born. Udayivan. Udayivan is not even born. You have shown yourself in this school. So that is the meaning of the word Atma. Girish Chandra Ghosh, talking about Sri Ramakrishna, says, he loved me more than I can love myself. He loved me more than I can love myself. That means he is the innermost reality. I may be a fool from outside. I do not know where my welfare lies. He knows. So he loves me best. This is all Atma Tattva Anusandhanam. We are not yet concentrated on the word Anusandhan. We said it is a search, but there is a word Anu there. Anusandhan. Search after we have felt the real nature. And that we have taken into consideration. I know that this is not my real nature. My real nature is beyond. Having known this, there is a pull. So much meaning is there in this shloka. And if we ignore this shloka, what Vivek Chudamani we are reading? I know that this is not my real nature. I know my real nature is beyond. And so I am searching for it. If I know that the Lord has entered into me, where I will go to search him? Inside me. So it is a search after knowing that the real nature is beyond. That is Swaswarupa Anusandhanam. And I know that God is in me. And I'm searching for him. So I have to go inside and inside and inside. I am not to search him in forest, hills and dales, and there we cannot get God. God is everywhere. But I know that he has gone inside and I am searching for that. This is Atma Tattva Anusandhanam. Bhakti Riti Aparejam. When he says apare, it does not mean both are only different words. One school of thought, other school of thought. One school of thought tending to jnanam, that the reality is transcendent. The other school of thought tending to bhakti, that means God is immanent in me. God is inside me. He is my Atman and I am searching for its real nature. So, bhakti is a pull which makes us search the real nature. Knowing the real nature is beyond, knowing the real nature is inside me, and they pulls me to search him. This is called bhakti. And moksha sadhana samagram bhaktir eva gariyasi. The only thing which is most important in all the moksha sadhana samagri, which has been described up till now, Vivek, Vairagya, Samadhi, Shat Sampatti, Moksha, and Guru Prasad. Among all that, what is Guru Prasad? Unless you have bhakti, what will Guru do? Unless you have the pulling force, what will Guru do? So, amongst all these described up till now, that which is not been described up till now is bhakti. And that is the most important. Bhakti reva gariyasi. Moksha sadhana samagram. Bhakti reva gariyasi. And then One more point I am telling now. 32. Ukta sadhana sampanna tattva jigyasuratmana upasidet gurum pradnyam yasmad bandha vimokshanam. So with all this, one has to go to the Guru. With all this, with the four sadhanas, with bhakti. So after describing bhakti, this shloka has come, please mind you. Four sadhanas are described, bhakti is described, and then after that this shloka has come. Ukta sadhana sampanna. Ukta sadhana means these four sadhanas and bhakti. After bhakti shloka, this has come. So, Ukta means having told. What is told? Four sadhanas and bhakti, that has been told. Ukta sadhana sampanna. One who has got this. That we have to take for granted. Manda madhyama uttama tivra, that is all right. But when one has got this, and he is tattva jijnasu, atmana, he knows that there is real nature. And jijnasu, again, we have to refer to Shankaracharya's Brahma Sutra Bhashya. A keen desire which does not stop till I realize Brahman is called jijnasa. Tattva jijnasa. Tattva means Brahman. About this word tattva, not the 24 tattvas proposed by Sankhyas and so many tattvas proposed by Shaivas. And there was a discussion in front of Sri Ramakrishna. And somebody described these 24 Sankhya tattvas and with some mistakes also. What is Tattva Jnana? He described like this. Sri Ramakrishna says, no. Tattva Jnana means Brahma Jnana. Only one can be Tattva. Others are only derivatives. So, Atmana Tattvam. Tattvam. The word we said Tattvam. Thatness of that. Thatness of that. The waterness of water. Tattvam. The thatness of that. Thatness of Brahman. Atman. Thatness of Atman. The real nature of Atman. That is the meaning of Tattva. Tattva means the real nature. Atmana. Jigyasu. One who is keen to realize that. The desire will not stop till he realizes that he has become now. Ukta sadhana sampanna. Ukta sadhana sampanna has become tattva jigyasu and he goes to the Guru. Upasidet, approaches Gurum Pradnyam, Guru who has the inner knowledge. Pradnyam is wisdom or inner knowledge. Yasmat, by which bandha vimokshanat, by which bandha vimokshanam, by which will happen the release of the bonds which we are having due to ignorance. We are having bonds, bandhanas, bindings of imperfection, bindings of desires, and we will become free from that by the help of the Guru, by the grace of the Guru, provided we approach him rightly, having all these means, including the Samadhi sadhana and bhakti, which has been told as the most important. So with this pulling force, we are approaching the Guru properly, and then will happen bandha vimokshanam. This is the great lesson in these few shlokas. Now, we have gone to the Guru, but what side of Guru is there? So now he describes the Guru. Shrotriyo avrujino akamahato yo brahma vittamaha brahmani uparatah shanto nirindana iva analaha ahetuka daya sindur bandhur anamatam satam. Beautiful description. Shrotriya. Shrotriya means one who has assimilated the meaning of the scriptures. That is Shrotriya. Shrotriya means one who has assimilated within himself the spirit of the scriptures. This is the meaning of the word Shrotriya. Avrujina. And there is no papa in him. There is no sin in him. There is no tendency for enjoyment in him. There is no selfishness in him. Otherwise, he is not a professor of philosophy. He has assimilated the spirit of scriptures by. He might not have read scriptures. Bhatu Maharaj can be a great teacher. He has assimilated the spirit of the scriptures and he is sinless. He has no tendency to enjoy. He has no axe to grind. He has no selfish motive. Akamahato, no desires. Avrujino, no sin. Akamahato, not wounded. Not wounded or killed by desires. Akamahato. Yo, Brahmavittama. Now, Brahmavit can be by intellect, Brahmavit can be a little experience, Brahmavit can be fully realized. So he should be a Brahmavittama, Brahmani Uparata. The test of Brahmavittama is that he has withdrawn into Brahman. His eye and his world has gone into Brahman. Uparati is not described here separately. Withdrawn. Brahmani Uparata. He has withdrawn, otherwise withdrawn from society and living gurus. That is not Guru. Guru is not withdrawn from society. Guru is withdrawn into Brahman. Brahmani Uparata. Shanta. Shanta means he cannot be disturbed by anything outside. Shanta means it is not only the Shama, but unprovoked. Even if you provoke him, he will not get provoked. That is called Shanta. Example is given, Nirindana iva nala. Fire is there, wood you are putting and it's burning the wood. Suppose the wood is finished, then the fire has become calm. So, because his desires are not there, he has become Shanta. And now the most important quality. We have been seeing always that only Brahmajnan does not make you Ahetuka Daya Sindhu, ocean of mercy, without any reason, without any motive. Without any motive is ocean of mercy. So Guru has to be with a person with a big heart. He is eager to share his knowledge with others. Or why? Don't ask him why. There is no why in that. It is not for money, it is not for alternative, it is not for his own fame. You cannot find any reason there. And so Ahetuka Daya Sindhu. And then to whom is he available? We have been asked to approach him properly. What is that? Bandhu. Bandhu means friend. The Bengali meaning of the word bandhu. Not in other languages, bandhu means brother. But here bandhu means friend. Anamatam satam. Anamatam means those who have bowed down to him. Those who are ready to sacrifice their ego. Those who have bowed down to him. Or then he is the friend. Satam. Those who are good people, basically. All these things in the sadhaka, one word he has summed up, Satam. So, good people who have borne down to him, he is their friend. Friend is one who is going to help you to realize God. That is called the friend. And so, Shrotriyo, Amrujino, this is how the Guru is being described. Not that any man in the street, Tom, Dick and Harry cannot teach you. And not that you make him Guru. Samaradya Gurum Bhaktya, again Bhakti has come. Again the word Bhakti has come. Can we apply Sasurpanasandhana here? Samaradya Gurum Bhaktya, Prabhu Prashraya Sevanai, Prasannam Tam Anuprapya, Pruchet Gyatavyam Atmana, Tam Gurum Aradya. I think we take it up next. From here, the Guru Shishya Sambandha and how the Guru teaches, that starts here. We have stopped up to, we have approached the Guru and the Guru's characteristics are given. There we have stopped. After that will come what he does to the Guru, what Guru does to him, and then the spiritual life proceeds. Swami Vivekananda has said, only where this Guru-Shishya relation is there, spiritual life proceeds. Otherwise, as is the process in those days in the churches or wherever, he comes and gives a lecture, we pay him some fees and go away. Their spiritual life does not proceed. So, enough for the day. We take it up on the next day now. We have gone up to Shloka 33 today, starting from Shloka 28. 6 shlokas only because that was very important. Relation between the different means, importance of bhakti in all the means, two definitions of bhakti, the transcendental and the immanental, and then approach to the Guru. In between also Guru's grace he had brought in. These are the topics today. Om Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hare Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna.